The saying goes, prevention is better than cure. So how has our understanding of the cancer risks improved then versus now? Welcome to the Crossover Connections with Jack Wang podcast. My name is Jack. I'm a scientist and college professor at an Australian university. Let's look historically what people thought to be the causes of cancer. The early theories about cancer causes, according to the American Cancer Society's historical section on the website, which is a very interesting read, where ancient Egyptians blamed cancer on the gods. There is also the humoral theory, where Hippocrates believed the body had blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile, and you need to have a balance of all of those four humors or four types of body fluids. Really wasn't particularly scientific at all. A lot of people think trauma gives you cancer. If you go through a lot of bad things in your life, then you're more prone to cancer. And what we now understand to be the main risk factors for cancer revolve around two main camps. One is being exposed to an external stimulant that is a carcinogen that increases the risks of cancers happening. And what's happening at the molecular level is that DNA is being changed to promote cell growth. And this change in the DNA can be caused by environmental agents. For example, certain viruses, if they infect you, they could increase the likelihood that your cells would start dividing uncontrollably, and that would lead to cancer. There's also a number of chemicals that can cause these same kind of problems in your DNA. The UV radiation from the sun can lead to mutations that force your cells to grow quicker over time. The article gives you a number of viruses that can infect and give you cancer. Hepatitis B or C can lead to cancer of the liver, herpes virus, the Epstein-Barr virus, non-Hodgkin lymphomas, and nasopharyngeal cancer. And HIV can also cause cancer, and HPV, human papillomavirus, can cause cancer. The most well-accepted orthodoxy around the causes and risks for cancer comes down to genes, namely oncogenes or tumor suppressor genes. Oncogenes are genes that normally cause cells to divide. For some reason, they've been sent into overdrive, and they will promote cell growth very, very quickly in an uncontrolled way. Cell growth is actually very much a good thing. You actually want your cells to divide, but that rate of division needs to be very carefully controlled. And normally it's controlled through an oncogene that has very, very strong off switch rather than a very strong on switch. So when the oncogene is turned on, normally it should turn itself off very quickly. But in the case of cancer cells, oncogenes have been mutated to the point where their off switch is very weak and their on switch is very strong, so that they're always promoting cell growth very, very consistently. So there's one type of gene that could be mutated, either through some kind of viral infection or through some kind of chemical you've been exposed to, or maybe you just inherited a copy of an oncogene from your parents. The other class of gene is tumor suppressor genes. And tumor suppressor genes are there designed to turn cell division off and suppress the growth of tumors and suppress cells growing. So at all times, our body is in this balance where oncogenes are promoting cell growth while tumor suppressor genes are slowing cell growth down to make sure that we don't have any abnormal growth of cells in our body. If you have cancer, 3 or 4 of these oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes in your body are broken to the point where they're not slowing down cell division and cells are dividing very, very quickly. Throughout the course of your life, you expose yourself to more risk factors. You accumulate mutations in either these oncogenes or tumor suppressor genes. Symptoms of cancer manifest. There are, of course, people who are born with way more mutations in these genes, and that's where the really sad cases of childhood cancers or babies who are born with cancers, they already are born with a few of these mutations in their system. They don't need any exposure to chemicals or infectious agents. They have these mutations built in, which is another reason why we don't want to expose ourselves to risk factors. None of us really know how many mutations we have already in our system when we're born. So by exposing ourselves to risk factors, we're just increasing the likelihood that the existing mutations would have these extra mutations added on top. We will cross some threshold where the cell division stops being so carefully controlled in our body, and then we get cancer. We know way more about risk factors for cancer now than we did then back in the day. And this is a link from Cancer Australia, which goes through to talk about the risk factors and how we reduce personal risk for cancer. Smoking is a big one. Smoking causes 20% of cancer deaths in Australia. So tobacco smoking is something that you should really be very clear on, that it is a huge risk factor. If you're born without any mutations in any of the oncogenes or tumor suppressor genes in your body, you could probably smoke for a long time and not have cancer anywhere near as early as someone who already is born with 2 or 3 of these mutations. Smoking is obviously one of the biggest risk factors. Another one is relating to just our general well-being, our general health, physical health, nutrition. There's also alcohol, UV radiation, and occupational exposure to chemicals. And the next article is relating to Johnson & Johnson, which had just settled for $27.6 million to a California man who says he got cancer from baby powder, talc-based products. The constant exposure to the baby powder that had these talc compounds that was associated with mesothelioma in the tissues around his heart as a result of his exposure to talc baby powder since childhood. So every now and then you'll see these headlines in the news where there's a new chemical that's been connected to the cause of cancer, and usually there's a settlement involved, and hopefully that improves the amount of chemicals or streamlines the amount of chemicals that are available and used very routinely. All of this is progress. All of this is advancement. Once we know something causes cancer, we usually remove it from circulation. We don't double down on its negative impact. Again, this shows you how far we've come since the days where people were smoking cigarettes and using talc-based baby powders, inhaling asbestos, working in these asbestos sites, which is another risk factor. All of this is good sign of progress. I'm Jack. Hope to connect with you again next time around.